Mandalorians are nothing without their trinkets.
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 Anytime to use
Trinkets.
I propose that every single Star Wars show
The dark
should
saber
say-
is gone.
Is gone.
Are we
My clones.
without the trinkets.
My clothes. You stand here on my clothes.
On my achievement. No, that's different. Hey, what's up,
That's
Force
different.
family? Welcome back to the Star Wars Guys podcast. We are so glad to have you here. We're your hosts, Mike,
Hello there.
Nate,
Hello there,
and you know me well.
Uncle. Or is he clone uncle?
It was.
Is
a
he
clone.
Clunkle?
Clunkle.
Clunkle.
Clunkle. There's
We
a
got
whole.
Darth in the chat.
There's
What's going
10
on?
versions of me back in the back room, so
Yeah.
watch your step on the way
Yeah,
in
yeah.
and out.
All with different versions of facial hair. Because then that
I know.
confuses people whether or
I
not
actually
it's
saw
a
that.
clone or
Did you
not.
actually see that going
Exactly
around?
right.
Yeah, I did.
I saw people
I
saying,
saw. That some people, because Moff Gideon in this season, immediately when we saw him, didn't have a mustache anymore.
That's
And
right.
people were like, the clones didn't have a mustache. Maybe the real Gideon is out there
It's not
with
him.
his mustache. Or maybe he shaved. I did see
Yeah.
someone as a joke today say, wait a second, and put side by side and said, Grief Karga had a brown mustache in season 1 and a white goatee now. Is
Clone?
he a clone?
I saw that going around too.
Man, so none of
good.
them are real.
None of them are real.
No.
Whoa.
And we have no
No,
idea if
no,
Den
no.
has a goatee right now. He could.
We don't know.
We have
That's
no
true. We wouldn't know.
idea. We wouldn't know.
Pedro's not on the show
No,
anymore.
no,
It's not at all.
Yeah, welcome back
Season
to the
finale.
Star Wars Guys podcast. We're talking about obviously the season finale of
Yeah.
The Mandalorian, season 3, chapter 24, The Return.
The return.
And yeah, I know we're a few days after having seen it.
Yeah.
So we've been sitting with this for a while. We haven't discussed it. We
We
save
don't
it for
talk
the
about
cast.
it anymore.
And we'd like to
No.
start as always. This
And
is
we're
a
not
long-
going to discuss it.
Nope.
No,
We're
we're just
talk
going to tell
about
jokes. This is open mic.
The 1939 MGM classic, The Wizard of Oz.
I saw Wicked the other day.
You did?
I did. It was good.
How was it?
It was really good, actually.
Nate was defying
Everyone's
gravity.
favorite
He was-
musical that no one's ever they've never
yeah,
seen.
I've said it for years. Wicked is my favorite musical that I've never
They've
seen.
never seen.
Well,
yeah.
now I've seen it, so
Well,
It's awesome.
it's
I
the best musical
know-
I've ever seen. Also the only.
Yeah.
Popular, you're gonna be popular. That's a Moff Gideon was saying to his clones.
yeah, he's talking to each of them.
Popular.
Just like
You're gonna be
blink like on the nose.
popular.
He's wicked. He's wicked.
There's the Mandos. Get him! I love it. Well, we're here to
Oh,
discuss
man.
the finale, and we like to start, as always, with our discussions with overall thoughts. We'll give, I think, as the podcast episode unfolds, maybe we'll start with overall thoughts of the episode, and then maybe we can get
Overall
into
of
overall
the
thoughts of the season.
Yeah.
Uncle Nate,
Yeah.
you owe
Uncle?
nothing. I want to say you owe nothing once you lose your trinkets. But also, having said that,
My clones.
what do we think? Overall thoughts
Of the episode of the season.
of the episode first.
I really liked it.
Yeah,
Of course, I always want more,
More.
and
No.
and it felt like some of the episodes before. I felt like if we used that time, we'd have been.
yeah,
But I wanted to go farther.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to hear more
Mhm.
about what's going on.
mm-hmm.
I thought it was
Ooh,
great.
Paul Allen in the chat said Uncle was right about the armor. Unbelievable. He was.
You were.
How
He
about
was.
it?
and
As
we'll get
much
to
as
that.
we
We'll
tried
get
to
that.
talk him into it, we
I
went
was
an extra
so
hour
good.
on that podcast.
I have
episode.
a
was so
formal
relieved.
apology set in 5 minutes from now to the armor.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
I was so relieved.
Yeah.
It felt in a lot of ways. There are moments that I know people go, oh, I didn't like that. That felt so Star Wars to me.
Oh, in
Yeah.
this episode? you
Yeah.
mean?
Oh
Very
yeah,
much
yeah, yeah.
Star Wars.
No, I agree.
Do you have some off the top of your head?
Yeah, the whole little droid interaction.
Yeah, I
Felt
loved
very
it.
Star Wars.
I loved it.
Exactly.
We
I
just
loved it.
kind of we forget about
loved
that
it.
that
I
moment.
love
of it
the
with
mouse
R2
droid
stuff.
I even
circling him.
think
That's
the,
total
like-
R2.
even like just the Grogu flipping, but like it's a puppet still.
Right.
I'm watching. I'm like, that feels Star Wars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was reminded at the very end where the fade down to the circle.
Yeah.
I was reminded of the Return of the Jedi where
Yeah.
they do the special
Dun,
edition where
yeah.
it fades down to
Yep.
and then disappears. So I liked it. I thought it was great. And
Yeah.
there were some moments that I got emotional that I
Mm.
thought, oh, I didn't expect that,
Yeah.
but it felt good.
Mhm.
And there, of course, we got in quick. It was like
Yeah.
we're running, like opening scene.
Short
Yeah.
episode too.
Short,
Very
yeah.
short episode. Shorter than what we had maybe hoped for the finale going into. I think it was 38 minutes with the credits, or it was like 42 with the credits.
Yeah.
But after you take out also the previously on, which is 2 minutes,
Yeah.
and then the post credits, it was like I think like 35 minutes or so of story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
here's the thing though, right? When I talk to my kids about this, about different movies and things, they say, why doesn't this happen or why doesn't that? I'm like, when you try to catch lightning, like that Luke
what
reveal
George-
of season 2,
you can't do it every
That's
That's
what
time.
How?
George said. Why didn't this happen? Because I wanted a blue house.
there you go.
Yeah,
And
Would a
it's-
greenhouse have been wrong? No.
exactly.
But I wanted it blue.
you might have wanted.
And sometimes there's magic that happens in there that
Yeah.
a certain combination of things, like the whole Luke thing. How could you?
yeah,
I mean,
So
you can't
it
top
feels
that.
like comparing doesn't.
for
you know,
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
You're
No,
always
I-
gonna feel differently.
To build off that, I felt very similarly. I thought that this is some of the best action
Yeah. for
choreography
sure.
fighting, if not the
For
best
sure.
I've ever seen in Star Wars. I thought that the way that they shot, choreographed, I don't know the correct term because obviously you had the combination of visual effects
Yeah.
of some
Yeah.
like the CGI digital stuff with
Right.
the jetpack, the way they used the jetpacks
Oh, my
in
goodness.
creative
Oh, man.
ways. It was an
Like, how do you do that?
awesome.
We've seen that in animation. Like, how
Yes,
do you do that? In
I was gonna
live
say
I
action?
know.
this
I
felt.
know.
I know we've
Amazing.
referenced before. This felt in some of the best ways, like especially those fight scenes, like stuff I've seen in Rebels or in Clone Wars
Yes.
of
Yeah.
Bo-Katan with the jetpacks, with the dark saber out,
Leading-
and then it
Yeah,
was
that
like
was cool.
Then it was like
That
a
was
hive
cool.
of bees fighting,
know.
and it was
And it was just full blown. Like it was like Lord of the Rings, just army just crushing into each other.
And then how
But they're-
about
but they're in the
how
air.
about when they're crushing
Right.
into each other, and then you turn, and then the armor comes like, and then like all of a sudden is full focus, like boom, bashing someone over the
I
head,
know.
but like a surprising, like almost like scares you.
Crazy,
Right.
I thought
yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
The,
Just
yeah,
even
the action was sweet.
I thought the action was really sweet. I thought that I loved seeing Grogu and Din at the, and obviously Bo-Katan also, but Grogu and Din at the center of what was going on.
Yeah.
Like I liked seeing those two
sure.
on
Yeah.
a mission together,
Yeah.
rather than Grogu maybe back at the ship and waiting,
That's
and
right.
then waiting for his moment to come in. He was with Din pretty much the whole time,
Mhm.
which felt like a good way with the story arc and the development we've had since season 1. It's always been those two. It's turned into an ensemble show, which is
Right.
good. That's
Yep.
just what happens when a show gets bigger. It
Yeah.
started small and then it's gotten bigger. But I loved I loved that aspect of it. I heard a couple other people doing just some of their quick takes after seeing the show, and I think they make a good point of when you're talking about the episode, it's very hard to not judge the episode or to feel a certain way while you're watching it. It's very hard to not let your expectations have any
Yeah.
influence on it,
Very hard.
or your guesses of this or that.
Yeah.
And we talked about that. Of we try our best, and even I can say that in the middle of that episode, I'm like, okay, I was wrong about that. And it's and sometimes I get caught up too much in that.
Yeah.
So I think that it's easy. I think we'll get to both of it in our review to judge the show and really talk about what was there and what was the story they're telling.
Yeah.
Versus, like you were talking about, George saying painting the house green versus blue, versus the story that maybe we thought they were going to tell, or where we thought that they were going to
Yeah.
take the story, and because
Mhm.
of that, maybe being like, oh, I thought this part was underwhelming, or I thought, not saying that because they told their story, we have to love everything about the story that
Yeah.
was told,
right.
but it's definitely, I think, for me personally, like it's from the moment this is kind of big picture, but from the moment we heard before the season started, when there's little quotes coming out about, we hid the Grogu reveal season 1, we hid the Luke
Yeah.
reveal
Yeah.
season 2. I'm having to think that maybe they meant Keller and Beck for this season because there's a big reveal about
Could have been.
Ahmed Best. But it's hard to not have that in your mind the whole time throughout the different episodes. of
Exactly.
What's gonna happen? What's the
Who
big?
is it?
Big bang moment? What's the big
Yeah.
wow? That's gonna.
Yeah.
What is the Luke moment?
Right.
And not every season needs a Luke moment, or not
Right.
every season
Right.
can deliver that, because that is lightning in a bottle.
It would
that's
have
hard
ruined
to repeat.
It would have ruined the point. The point is that Mandalorians
Exactly.
stand together. They don't need a Jedi to come and save them.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have worked.
That's
Yeah,
exactly. Although
exactly.
they kind of did, but he is a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Right? He's a foundling. But anyway.
Yeah. So now, having said that, there are. I think the way you described it, I really liked it. I wouldn't say I was blown away. Like, oh my goodness, this is my favorite episode of Mando I've ever seen. But it was also, I really liked a lot of what was going on. There are parts that I was emotional. I loved seeing, and we'll get to all the specific moments, but I know we're going deep rabbit hole. But Nate, overall thoughts?
Similar. I want to hear what Nate says.
I think I felt the same way. I really, really liked the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say it was my favorite Mando episode that we've seen,
Yeah.
but it was one of my favorites of the season. I think I liked the last episode maybe a little bit more.
Guns for Hire.
Yeah. I like
or
that.
The Spies.
Or the Spies. Yeah,
He
guns,
said yes
to
guns,
that
guns
without
for
even-
hire.
I got him.
I had to check that just to make sure. That
I did
clip
that.
was
I
going to
delivered
That
that.
was my favorite.
I delivered that
episode.
so straight. That
It
just to
was.
try to.
I just said yeah.
Yeah.
Bombardier.
Yeah.
Douche.
You are a
Skadoosh.
knight for no reason.
Night.
Sorry, distraction.
But yeah, I really liked it. There were definitely things that were surprising, which I liked. I was wrong about some things.
Let's
and
go
there
there
were things
now.
that the
Wow.
way it ended, I think, was probably the most. Because even though obviously we'll get to the armor and we've had that discussion. Even though I've been saying that I think she could be bad or working with Moff Gideon the entire time, we also discussed that it also is open. They've made it clear that she could actually just be good the whole time.
Yeah.
Turns out, at least as far as we know, she has been. And
Maybe.
yeah, maybe. Season 4.
Ooh.
But
She didn't.
so that didn't really
step in now?
surprise. It didn't surprise me
Yeah.
in that way. It was just something that was like, okay, that was an option, and I was wrong about that. But so it didn't that part didn't really surprise me. But I think the ending was probably the most surprising for me personally. Not in that it was like shocking, because it didn't end with a Luke Skywalker moment.
Yeah.
But because it felt like a series
Oh, we're gonna
finale
talk
wrap
about
up.
this,
It
aren't
did.
we?
And I know they're doing season 4 and they got a movie coming, but it
Mhm.
felt like I don't know, even just down to the last frame with the zoom in, like you
Yeah.
had mentioned, it felt like a series finale because they kind of wrapped up a lot of the stuff and they get to Mandalore and then Grogu and Din are sent out to do their thing.
Yeah.
And he's looking after Grogu. He adopts him.
Chilling on the porch.
So there's, even though it's open, because obviously there's more missions that they'll be going on the
Mhm.
way that it did end, but it felt
Yeah.
like an ending that was like, here's the conclusion of where we're at so far, and
Yeah.
it could be, this could be it. Like if we didn't hear that there was a season 4 and a movie and stuff coming, I'd be like, oh, it's open ended, but it felt like that was a conclusion with an open ended if they wanted to
Yeah.
continue the story.
Yeah.
And that shot where he's relaxed,
Just
there
relax, chill.
is
Yeah.
it's an intentional callback to the episode Sanctuary, the first Bryce Dallas Howard episode that
Mhm.
was directed, where it's
That's what they were
him,
looking for.
Grogu,
Yeah.
and at the time it's also Cara Dune sitting there with her feet propped up,
Yeah.
and it's like a cabin, that type of a thing.
Yeah.
And they're thinking even then, like, well, what if we just stayed here? Now, I did
Yeah.
hear some people say, like, the first thing Din needs to do is go talk to that lady who he had a connection with,
Yeah.
who he almost took his helmet off for.
Yeah.
Although now he'd have to go swim in the poison waters. Of
Yeah, but
Mandalore,
now
which
he
are no
knows where it
longer
is.
poison.
And he knows how to
They're
get
beautiful waters
That's right.
where
It's
the
easy.
mythosaur lives, but well beneath the
Like
surface,
that
maybe
kid-
for 1,000 more years.
that
But
Why
kid at the
can
end-
he not just sign up to walk both worlds if Bo-Katan does it?
well,
I volunteered to walk both worlds.
so
volunteer to walk
I would
both
volunteer.
worlds.
yeah.
This thing is hot.
The
Oh,
armor is the
that
only
a
one
thing?
left.
I choose that. Yeah.
Um,
Having said all this, we'll get to some of the things, and we'll talk about things that maybe we're not. Oh, like maybe this was something that I was surprised this happened, or something like I thought this was underwhelming, or different parts that of like the season as a whole,
Yeah.
as well. Because I think there are.
I got one to
It's
tell
interesting to
Yeah.
know what was there, and
Yeah.
it's also just as interesting to think about what was not in the episode that we're like, I almost was positive that we were going to get a mythosaur.
I know.
Considering
And
they
the
teased
eyes
it,
open
and then
again.
they
Yeah.
ended the episode by just giving basically the exact same tease,
Yeah.
if not a lesser tease than they did before. Before it was like moving around. This
Yeah,
time it's
and
like,
we'll
oh,
get
remember?
to that,
Oh,
'cause
we're
I
still
got
here.
some thoughts on that too.
Just
but
So
disturbing.
there
I
are
saw-
some other things.
Just
I've
keep
got a list
waking
of
them
a
up.
few things too. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like, are they still going on up there?
Darth in the chat says, I think you kind of mentioned this too. I think too many people judged this episode considering their theories and expectations. The
Yeah.
show ended in a
Ooh.
good way.
Good thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
For
I agree.
Sure.
yeah.
I agree.
think it definitely played a role. For
I
sure.
agree. Derpy
Oh.
said Return of the Jedi is re-releasing in theaters for 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
I saw that. You guys, are we
One-
going to see it? Yeah.
One thought I
Definitely.
forgot to mention.
So yeah.
Yeah, we should. We'll stream it. No, we'll get locked up for that. But one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about it feeling like a series finale, it was interesting that pretty much we know the mythosaur is still below the surface, but as far as the big questions, big
The big bad.
answers that we got from
Yep.
season all the way back to season 1, pretty much everything was answered, was wrapped up.
Yeah,
when they say that
that's the
there's
thing.
when they say that there was resolution, Jon Favreau had used a quote like, "We
cloning,
should feel
the-
some resolution."
Yeah.
It did feel like, oh, the big story from all the way back. Why did they want Grogu?
We speculated it was the cloning.
Why'd
but
they want
now they
Grogu?
confirm
Yep.
everything.
Obviously Moff Gideon flat out told us why they wanted Grogu. That's for the
Of
cloning.
course.
What's going on? Like, we know Thrawn's out there, but that's more for the Ahsoka show.
Yep.
Din, Mandalore, they took back Mandalore. I did think it was interesting. I want to know your guys' reaction when it ends with Din saying, what if I adopted him? I was kind of like, didn't we kind of already do this?
I thought we did that.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I kind of when he
I
You
said
thought
should
we
have
would
that
be
thought of
a
that
little weird.
before.
when he said that they
I
would
thought
be
that was a little weird.
they would be
Clan
tribe
two.
of two, clan of
Clan
two.
of two.
I kind of was like, oh, everyone was like, oh, it's like his dad. And so once he finally officially adopted him, for some reason, and again, maybe it was the way I took it, I felt like that felt a little underwhelming to me,
Yeah.
just because I was kind of like, oh, this
thought we
feels
already
like
did
they
it.
were really setting this up for a big moment that I'm not sure if they realized
Yeah.
that. I think that as us an audience kind of already saw him as that.
Yeah.
I
I
think
don't
my
know.
whole house thought that he was going to say, "This ain't the way."
I know. I thought he was going to talk.
The way it is. What would have happened?
My voice, the way it is.
That
one. Didn't Grogu. I am.
Well, here's another question, because I saw someone point this out. Were you also surprised that it was Din Grogu and not Grogu Jaren? Because
Well, yeah, that was a surprise. But
but the Mandalorian names that we've ever heard all are last name names.
Mm-hmm.
Bo-Katan Kryze.
House Kryze, House Ren, House Vizsla, and then it was like everyone even calls him Din to his like Din. Like she never calls him Jaren. Multiple people
It's like
call
it's
him
House
Jin.
Din.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
right.
it's almost only a Mouse of Evil Doth. It felt like almost like a little bit like a only
Yeah.
Mouse of Evil Doth, which is your first
Which is your
name.
whole name.
Because I
Right.
mean, Bo-Katan calls him in this season a lot. Din, and because obviously Grief calls him Mando, but
Yeah.
because of that, I thought, oh, interesting. So Din Djarin. It just I know that a lot of other people I saw on the internet were like, not that it's a wrong choice. They know it better than me, but I was like, oh, does that mean Din has not been his first name the whole time, even though people call him Din a lot? Is Djarin his first name? Like, because now he's Din Grogu. I was like, is Din now I'm just wondering the lore all of a sudden, is it a title? Is it like
Yeah.
Moff? So all of a sudden, it just made me
Wow.
question the whole character.
I
that
don't
If it
know.
is, how is he in his family if it's a title then?
That's what I didn't understand. So again, obviously they know Filoni and Favreau,
Yeah.
especially Filoni, when it comes to like all this lore stuff and everything. They know what they're
Yeah.
doing. But I would love an explanation, or I would love even just a little interview of like,
Dave,
this is a Din Grogu.
Give us the
Darth
thought
says
on
maybe because
foundlings.
Din is not from Mandalore, so his name's not recognized as a clan. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
so maybe Din is like a foundling, but he said he's no longer a foundling because
I don't know.
she said, well, then he'll remain
He's no
a
longer
foundling.
a foundling because
He said, well, he's going to be my apprentice.
Adopted.
No, he'll remain a foundling because he cannot speak the creed. And he's like, well, what if I adopt him? Well, then I shall give him a foundling's name, just like you. I don't want him to be a foundling anymore. What do I have to do to make him no longer a foundling?
He's literally in the
You
water.
You shall go to the poison waters of man. I already did that. I'm sorry. That's just out of habit. Bo-Katan's like, do I have to go to the living waters? No, take off your helmet. Breathe the
Walk
fresh
both
air.
worlds. Listen to the
Paul-
words I'm saying.
Paul in the chat says, I think the ending was like that because we have a lot of series before Mando 4. So
There's
so
a
you
lot
would
of
have to
stories, though.
wait too long if they ended with a cliffhanger.
That is
Maybe.
also true.
That
You-
could
be.
if they're not sure, like if
It was
they left a
merciful.
cliffhanger that might be addressed somewhere else. They maybe
was
weren't
merciful.
sure
yeah,
what cliffhanger to leave it as, so they just
that makes
didn't
sense.
do it. Yeah,
At
that makes
this
sense.
point now, Din and Grogu, if they want to appear in Ahsoka or
yeah.
one of these other shows, they
They
can show
can.
up in that.
because
But
they're
it
working
doesn't. The
with
other show
Sure.
doesn't have to start with.
Are you
well,
with the
Thrawn-
resistance? Are you with the resistance?
Thrawn showed up
Resistance.
to Din's place at the very end. Like that would be
Yeah.
like, oh well, now we have
Right.
to
Yeah.
immediately resolve that
Yeah.
before we get to something else.
Yeah.
No post credit scene.
No,
Thrawn.
No.
I was a little surprised.
No
about
Thrawn
that.
mention of this in this
Nothing.
whole
Yeah.
episode.
I didn't. I wasn't
didn't
too
think that he-
surprised that.
The only thing I thought it would be was for the post credit scene
That's I thought
because
if they did a
the way they
post-credit scene.
teed up Book of Boba Fett,
Mm-hmm.
that was like completely to us. We knew that he left at the end of season 2.
Yeah.
We knew he flew off. And honestly, I didn't even think like, oh, I wonder where Boba Fett went because I'm so wrapped up in the Luke thing.
Yeah.
And then the post credits, oh, you want to see? Boom, this is what's coming next.
Right.
It says
But
Boba Fett will return.
again, that's not a positive or a negative. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
I kind of thought that there would be a little post credit scene, but no.
Have they talked
Okay.
about the time frame of season 4?
about when it'll come out?
No, like when it's going to be set.
Oh no,
yeah,
I haven't
don't know.
heard it all.
I think they're in production right now, is what I heard.
I know they've finished writing it
'Cause it
and I
doesn't
think they
have-
said
Finished
it-
writing it. And I think they're working on episode 4. Is what the latest thing I saw right now.
A season
not
finale,
filming it yet, though.
Pre-production for
Yeah.
episode
something
4 or
like
something.
this. They could start 5 years later.
True.
I mean,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to.
No, it
There's
doesn't.
no like reason to start where they
which
are.
could be like they're
Whatever they
saying
do.
in chat, part of why they ended it the way they did, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
they can play with the skeleton crew and Ahsoka and see where
Mhm.
things line up, and then finish the.
Yeah.
But
Let's
yeah,
talk about something. Are there any things off the top of your guys' head that you're like, all right, let's talk big picture story.
I have a thought.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think so. Everybody loves Elf, right? Everybody loves Elf, but I've always
course, Johnny
struggled with
Fabs.
Elf a little bit because the question I always have is he an elf or is he a child? Okay, is he an elf? Because he acts like a child, but the other elves didn't act like
They're
children.
adults.
yeah.
They acted
Yeah.
adult-like, but is he an elf or a child? He's eating cotton
That's
balls,
a great
right?
point.
Oh, my finger has a heartbeat. That's not an elf. That's a child. Okay,
Because even the other elves are like, oh boy, look
exactly,
Oh, buddy.
right?
at Buddy. They're all sitting there like, buddy, we
But-
got to meet our quota. And he's like, and he's like sucking on his finger.
I don't know.
'cause
It's
of
just
syrup.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So I think
Not
to
a
a-
shot at Elf. We love
I
Elf.
think-
But that's
well,
a great
but I
question.
think to a degree they have that problem with Grogu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he a child or because there are
Oh,
moments
I'm
when
definitely-
it's
yeah.
when it's a child, but then
Yes.
it's like there are moments that he's not like
Yeah.
yes.
He's the one
yes,
stepping in and stopping
yes,
them from fighting.
Yes, completely understands.
That's an adult. He's
At-
stepping in and stopping them
right,
from
right. So-
fighting, saying no.
I've
Yeah,
struggled with
no,
that
that
back
makes-
and forth
that
a
makes
little bit.
sense.
It's
Yeah.
cute. He's a child. He's cute.
But they've also
But-
very clearly said he's 50.
Right.
But
He's
what's
been
interesting-
trained
what's
at the
interesting
He's
temple,
is-
older. He's
trained
the
with
oldest
Luke.
one on there. It's-
What's interesting is for
Yeah.
800 years,
800 years. I
uh,
trained Jedi.
he
Right.
trained Jedi, but he died about at 900.
so he's training at 100.
So at 50, Grogu's drooling, can't say a word yet. 50 years later, he's now training other Jedi.
Right.
So there's some fast growth spurt that's
There
coming.
could be.
Where all
And
of a
it's-
sudden,
It's fine what it is. It just felt like I wasn't sure.
no,
Yeah.
I've actually thought about that before
Yeah.
too. About there are certain things I'm like, oh, he's cute, but also he clearly understands
Yeah.
that. But then there
Yeah.
are other things like Grogu, don't eat the cookies, and he's like eating cookies and he's burping, like throwing up like a little baby. But then also
But then other
he
times,
settles a dispute between two Mandalorian clans who have
Mhm.
been fighting over a game of chess that actually that actually resembles. It represents much bigger than that. And
That's right.
Bo-Katan's like, "There's nothing we can do. This is bound to happen." And then he stops. No. And he also understands when Mando's like,
Yeah. No.
"Buddy, we
No.
gotta go. This
No.
doesn't end until we take out Gideon. Are you ready?" And Grogu looks him in the eyes and goes, and nods. I'm
And-
like,
yeah.
Okay.
You know what
It's like,
that
wait a
is.
second.
He's totally in.
He's totally in. You know exactly what's going on. But so yeah, there's
no
a
show
little
is
bit
perfect,
of
but that's one
Yeah.
of the things I
Yeah.
struggle with. a
Yeah.
little
that. That's
bit.
true.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Overall thoughts on the season as a whole.
Overall thought.
I felt like we had a very clear trajectory before.
Mm,
Mando. It felt like Mando's the Mandalorian's path from cold to emotional,
Yeah.
from distant to connected, from alone to a clan.
Yeah.
I didn't get that clear path this season. It felt more loose. Like
Mm-hmm.
it felt more about the Mandalorians
Yeah.
than the Mandalorian. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I wasn't sure I couldn't sum it up. Like I could sum it up before. Like we talked about that fact that Mando is being pulled to open himself up to people.
Yeah, yeah.
To not be
Yes.
so cold and closed.
Not be so cold to droids.
I can't
be
point
more.
to it. I can't point to
Yeah.
it for the season. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know.
At
Yeah.
least not for Mando.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
or even what
like
the
maybe
path-
the
Like
story
Bo-Katan,
overall
I feel like,
is.
oh yeah, her
Bo-Katan learns that the
goal the
stronger
whole
together,
time was
together thing is
That's
what
reuniting
probably the-
Bo-Katan's is
Yeah.
kind of Bo-Katan's.
that's
and maybe
probably
as a
the
group.
overarching message.
But
Yeah.
I will say we said it even in some of the previous episodes. We said it in the Guns for Hire review that we did was I struggled a little bit with that episode for a number of reasons, but there were still things I liked about. But some things that felt, oh, this feels like we're backtracking on his development with droids. We're
Yeah.
now back to this episode. This felt like, oh yeah, this is the den.
That's where we were.
This is where I thought he
Yeah.
was. How come 2 days before he's like, you had me at battle droids. Like I'll just kill any
Like,
battle
kill
droid
'em
in
all.
sight. I'm kicking them and
Right.
stuff. And we're like,
but assassin droids, bounty hunter droids,
Yeah.
he's good with.
bounty hunter droids who literally tried to kill Grogu before he stepped
Yeah.
in the episode 1.
Who was an issue at the beginning, and then he
So there were
overcame
things like
it.
that
Yep.
that I thought in the other seasons it felt like, okay, we see, like even let's use an example. There are in Book of Boba Fett, they clearly were telling a story about Boba Fett changing and going from this cold to this to learning as a tribe and learning
Right.
found family, but then also learning to change his ways. Where this felt like there are things, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but I think it's kind of some of my overall thoughts with the season. There are a number of things that felt like they didn't move. There that personally he felt like maybe regressed a little bit. There's some actual story beats too that like, oh, there's a number of things, but we talked off air right before we started. Nate and I were talking a little bit about the IG-11 returning at the very end
Yep.
of this.
Yep.
Which was like a cool moment. We knew they needed a marshal. That kind
Yeah.
of came full circle. But then we were kind of thinking, so for this season, they tried to get IG-11. They're like, we can't do it. Not even the Anzellans can do it.
yeah,
Um,
but now they can.
but then he's like, but now we have the head, and then now they could. But really, he's like, not even the Anzellans can do it. We got to reprogram. We really can't do it. Okay. And then later they're like, well, now look what we got. This is IG-12. It's the same thing, except now
Yeah.
Grogu, instead of your pod that moves around great,
Right.
that's
You can
literally
control
a
it.
shield.
Yeah.
Now you're going to walk around as a marionette, and you can be kind of a sitting duck, I
You
think,
can
as a
be-
target. But
Less mobile.
less
and
mobile, but now you
slower.
can say yes
Yeah.
and no and communicate that
yeah,
way.
Right.
Okay, so and I thought, okay, this is all tied in to get maybe the storyline was for IG-12. That's why they introduced it at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then at the end, after the one battle, they were like, actually, forget IG-12. Grogu, forget that.
Yeah.
It worked for like a day. You're not doing the yes-no thing
Yeah.
anymore. It was just for that mission.
Let's go
You
back
actually
to
gotta come back.
11.
And then now that we've got another head, the Anzellan's like, oh, yeah, we can fix it fine. But I thought they had all the parts, or at least most of the parts at the beginning. So I don't know. I
did think that was.
thought that was a little strange. So all that to say,
But they
I
made
felt
it a
like
point to call him IG-12 and then revert back
and
to
now
IG-11.
they're back to IG-11.
Yeah, right.
But the big overall thing I was thinking of there that I was struggling with a little bit afterwards was, does that undercut, or does it feel like it undercuts the sacrifice IG-11 made at the end of season 1? The end of season 1,
Yeah,
it was a big
does.
sad thing, and then now it's like, oh, well, we can
He's the
rebuild
marshal.
him, and he's back, and now he's a marshal and all this
He's
stuff.
better than he was before.
And Grogu also,
He's
I
got
will-
the stripes.
this is not to be too critical, but this is something I was thinking about when watching. Of like, man,
Jeez,
there was
this
some
guy
big.
hating on
I
the
mean,
episode.
No,
Goodness.
no. I actually really liked the
Is this
episode
for
a lot.
clicks?
No. It's for
Never.
fame and fortune, baby. No, there. I actually really liked the episode. This is kind of bigger things now. Once the season wrapped, I thought,
Just get it all
here's some
out.
things.
Just
But-
let it go.
I did think that.
I
Oh,
don't
I
know.
wonder if that makes the sacrifice feel any lesser. But
does.
there's things like that throughout Star Wars. Like, does Palpatine's returning in Episode 9
Take away
lesson
from Vader.
Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. At least you rid the galaxy of Palpatine for 30 years. I'd say that's a plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big win.
Yeah.
But
Saved your son.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
obviously the
Yeah.
biggest win. So there were moments like that. The whole like we've talked about before, the whole first 2 seasons getting Grogu to a Jedi, and then in Book of Boba Fett, he obviously comes back. Moff Gideon getting arrested by the New Republic, and then he escapes off camera. There was a number of these things that felt like, oh, this was building up to kind of a big thing, and then kind of quickly we're kind of back to where we were, or I don't know.
Right.
The Darksaber was a huge thing. We kind of thought might be a big back and forth between.
Right.
The way that's set up at the end of season 2 was like, oh my goodness, is Bo-Katan going to have to fight Din for the Darksaber, or what's going to happen there? And they really didn't have any conflict about it, which is okay. Like, I'm glad that Bo-Katan continued developing in the character that she is, because she was one of my favorite characters this season. But there was just a number of things I was like, oh, the end of season 2 had a lot of things set up that I was like, oh, they didn't go the way I thought, which is okay. But that's kind of some things I was wrestling with while watching it.
Yeah.
What do you think? That was 10 minutes. Let's top that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We could have a mic timer.
Or what are we doing
Mic
overall?
timer.
A mic timer.
Mike on the mic.
I feel sometimes a little bit like Arthur in Christmas Vacation.
Yes.
Little lights are not twinkling. Like
I know.
they do all of this amazing stuff. We're
No,
like,
yeah, totally.
They blinked before. Why aren't they blinking? But there's a point at which you go, they did used to blink.
Yeah.
Why aren't they? They could have made them blinking. Like, why
Yeah.
did they have to do that?
Mhm.
But we do enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
We do enjoy the
I
I really loved it.
questions.
I really liked
Yeah.
this season. But I know what Nate's going to say. Nate, take
What?
it away. What are you going to say?
Well, overall
Take
thoughts?
it away.
On this season versus others.
I mean,
Nate
I
said
love
this
Mando.
before.
I think it's
I really liked the season.
I love Mando as a whole, as just from Star Wars.
That being said,
That being said,
So I really like this season.
No,
That said,
it's
quite
my
frankly,
favorite Jerry
probably-
Seinfeld bit. You know, you just say that being said, and then you can erases everything
you
after
just,
it.
yeah.
You're a nice fella. That
Yeah,
being
that being
said, I
said.
think you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I love Mando.
know you
that
all-
being
That being
said,
said,
That
this
is-
season,
That's in a Seinfeld episode. You know, you all are a bunch of morons. Having said that,
Having
I'm
said
very happy to be here.
having said
Actually,
that,
there might
was
even,
it Seinfeld or was
it's a
that actually?
curb.
It's a
It's
curb.
a curb. He
Curb.
said,
It's a
have you ever
curb.
noticed that?
Having said
Having
that,
said that,
that-
you can get away with anything as long as you having said that. You tell them the truth, and then
and then having said that, I
Having
think
said
you're
that.
a wonderful person.
So, I love Mando.
Having
Having
said
said that, I think this was probably my least favorite season.
Mm.
I think season 2 was probably my favorite. Season 1, it was our first introduction to
Right.
Star Wars television and getting Mando for the first time, Grogu. So I liked seeing a lot of the bounty hunter side in season 1 and him actually making that conversion into
Yeah.
leaving the guild and taking on Grogu. I think it's really just goes back to kind of what you had mentioned about this season. Even though season 1 and 2 felt very like mission based, boom here, the overarching story felt like you said, we were peeling back Mando's layers,
Mm-hmm.
building his emotion, his connection, no longer going from being alone to having others, having Grogu, starting a clan. And this one just felt like it jumped around a lot. I didn't really have a clear vision on where it was going. Obviously it was, for Bo-Katan's kind of goal with reuniting Mandalore kind of became all of it.
Yeah.
Mando's and Grogu's, I guess, purpose in the end as well for this season. I don't know. Like Mike said it too. It felt like there were some things that I thought kind of backtracked a little bit with his character, with the droids, with
Yep.
Oh, the helmet. Is
the
what I
helmet
didn't
was
really get
another
to.
thing.
Right.
We
really
see
couldn't
the
believe
big
we didn't see
reveal in
Pedro
season
Pascal.
2.
Didn't see him once.
Season 2, yeah, the big reveal, and I thought, oh, we're gonna go into season 3 and get a lot more Pedro Pascal, kind
And
of
not
what
a
we
great
see,
reason.
and
We actually saw freedom given.
to everybody else.
It's just felt weird.
That's the thing is
That's
that
what
we
made it hard.
see
That's something I
Bo-Katan
wrestled
and
with.
everybody else now walking. Not everybody, but Bo-Katan
Yeah.
and her side,
Yeah.
I guess.
Right.
Still not the Children of the Watch. but they have the freedom and liberty to do it. So I just thought
They got their helmets off.
I thought we'd get more of that. Not that it's right or wrong. It just
Yeah.
kind of felt like we kind of built up to that
Right.
big moment to end season 2, and then we literally this is the only season we never saw him take his
Mhm.
helmet off. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Mhm.
There's a couple other things, and even though I loved the last 2 episodes, and what was it 7 7 and 8 and the finale, there were things that I thought happened that I was like, we already saw this. Like it felt like it was supposed to come off as like a really big moment,
Yeah.
but it was things that we had already seen. For instance, the Mythosaur I thought was really weird
Mm-hmm.
because we got that reveal in the second episode, and I remember I think you can even go back on our episode of our review here, and I thought, guys, we're getting this in the second episode. We're gonna get
What's
some
coming?
crazy. Oh, it's coming.
Bo's riding that thing.
And then not only they never went anywhere.
Yeah.
Then to end the season, they do this whole like Lord of the Rings, like going to the bottom of the river to see the ring has been there for years.
Right.
Or
Some
whatever.
might say even a little Jim Cameron Titanic.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, it
Going
goes
down.
all the way. So we go all
I
the
call
way
him
down.
Jim.
We go all the way down through the water.
Well, when you know him like we do.
It just felt
Jimmy.
like it was supposed to be a big, impactful moment with the just seeking the camera all the way down to the water,
Right.
knowing the whole time I know what they're about to show.
Mhm.
And then they show the Mythosaur, and I thought, oh, that's cool. But then I thought it was interesting that they chose to show it as if it was sleeping for like years and years and years, even though we
Mhm.
already saw it awake
Yeah,
at the
right.
beginning. So to me, it felt like that was taken away. Like if we didn't get the Mythosaur in episode 2, and then we saw that to end the season, we'd probably all be like, "What?
Right.
The Mythosaur's coming in season 4?"
And it's been right there in
And
the
it's
water.
been there the whole time. Like that to
Exactly.
me, I feel like would have been better. Even though I loved
even
seeing
when
the
Din
Mythosaur.
went to the bottom, it was there. Yeah.
Even though I
Yeah.
loved seeing the Mythosaur in season or episode 2 of this season, I felt like that moment to end this season would have been a lot more impactful
Right.
and had us more like, what? Like this is coming, rather than just opening the eye as if it was
It's-
asleep the whole time, even though we already knew it was awake.
They're
I don't
push.
know.
Yeah, I
I thought
agree.
it was interesting.
They're pushing the Star Wars guys to a place we don't like to go, and that is negativity. You
I
feel
know.
it? We're kind of.
I don't
But
like
here's
it.
the thing, right? So it's interesting. Most shows, like season 1, season 2, the writers don't even know who the character, like who they are yet. The actors don't know
Yeah.
the characters. If you go back and look at sitcoms, mainly sitcoms, but by season 3, they figured out.
We talked about
We know what we're
Seinfeld.
doing. We know
Yeah.
how these
Yeah.
characters are. We find our way. It
Yeah.
felt like Mandalorian's the opposite. Like, bang, episode 1. That's the guy. That's Grogu. That's who they are. And now it feels like we've kind of gone a different.
Yeah.
That's not.
Mhm.
And granted, their path was to be changing, but it feels like they
And-
don't have a
Yeah.
big trajectory. What's Mando's personal challenge? What's Grogu's personal challenge?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, right?
I don't.
I think
But
it was challenge.
Yeah.
You
I was
go.
just gonna finish by saying the other thing too,
Sorry,
and
yeah,
I don't
no,
necessarily think that it's necessarily like being like negative. Like I still liked it a lot, so I wouldn't say it's just like saying these things are all negative about it. I'm just trying to look at it from like a critical standpoint of like if this was supposed to be a really impactful meaning,
Yeah.
I felt like that moment kind of negated some of the impact that this could have had.
Yeah.
Like that kind of is how I'm trying to look at it. And I thought the same thing with, even though I thought it was very cool, with Grogu shielding off the fire.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. It was Kanan Jarrus,
It was definitely
saving
Rebels.
Right.
Yeah.
saving them. The fire's flying past. We're seeing it live action. I thought, oh, this is great. It was a big moment. But it was also the exact same thing we already saw to end season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, done
Grogu
by
comes
Grogu.
in. We got the flamethrower.
Exactly.
Or Din's got his helmet off.
That's right.
Not then at that time, but that's the first time we see him
That's
when
right.
IG takes it off. But before that happens, the flamethrower comes in, and then we see
Mm-hmm.
Grogu shield him with the fire.
Yep.
So it's like, even though it was cool and I love to see it, it felt like it was supposed to be this big impactful moment, but it was something we had already kind
That's
of
right.
seen.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
my
it was
first
on a
thought was-
grander scale.
it was on a bigger scale,
But you're right. They've already shown that Grogu
It's not a
They've
new
already
skill.
shown-
It's
shown
not a new
fire.
power.
So like,
or
even though I get like Luke or Grogu went to train with Luke, and not that you necessarily need Grogu to come back now and be a Jedi Master and be extremely powerful. I just felt like it was interesting that it was something that, like, it was really cool to see. But I was like, oh, we're seeing it again.
He did that before Luke.
Yeah.
Because he trained in the Jedi
So,
Temple.
I don't-
forever.
yeah.
He did that.
So,
and he
I
did
don't
it
know.
on
I
Mando
just-
before
Right,
that.
right.
I don't know. I mean, not that I could have written something else or ability
Boy,
that
can
he
you
did,
imagine trying to write?
Yeah, I couldn't
but
even.
I just thought it was interesting. So
the
those are a
helmet-
couple moments I
I
thought
agree.
was like,
Yeah.
oh, we already kinda saw
Definitely.
that.
Yeah.
What about stuff we loved?
There's a lot that I loved.
Yeah.
I love
The
the
action was sweet.
and
I love the Bo-Katans.
So good.
Darksaber coming out, fighting
how about
in
the
air.
Praetorian guards fighting?
I like that
Loved
a lot
seeing
too.
that. I loved. I loved that it took both of them. That Grogu would use the Force and it would like knock their weapons away because it was the only way Mando was going to beat them.
That's right.
Mando was in deep trouble by
Mhm.
himself. Like just so we saw, it just like even though Mando took out all those different souped up troopers that Moff Gideon had,
Mm-hmm.
R5 next shield, and then he'd take
That
him
was
out.
sweet.
That
the
was
hallway
so
scene,
cool.
call
Mhm.
back to Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
sure.
really
that was cool.
For sure.
I like that.
The actually seeing the reveal of what we thought, but seeing the reveal of actual Moff Gideons in clones was very cool. Seeing them there,
Yeah.
Moff Gideon fighting with his like hydraulics in his suit
Yeah, you could
was
hear
really
it.
cool because you have to remember that he's not. He said this is the new version of the Dark
Trooper.
Trooper suit.
Right.
It's
So
not
it's
just
not like
him in a suit.
It's not me with armor.
Yeah.
Mm.
He's not all of a sudden got Captain America
It's-
strength
It's-
because of him.
Yeah, robotic.
It is. He hits it and boom, it dents you. Like he hits.
Yeah.
Din tried to
Yeah.
catch it or he tried to punch and he just.
I mean,
catches it.
he's
Mhm.
snapped the Darksaber.
crushed it.
Mm-hmm.
Crushed it.
Yeah.
Which I do think was a good. It'll be interesting to see if Darksaber is
Reforged or something.
reforged, turned into something. But it's also because it means a lot to just it's a big thing for the history of Mandalore. But also this is one of those examples where shows and films have done this too, that it is the item of contention. It's the thing that people are fighting over.
Yeah.
And that what they're showing, and at least the message I think that what they're portraying in this show, and Din flat out says it in the previous episode, is that
Yeah.
Darksaber means nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I didn't want it. Like that doesn't mean anything to me. I
Yeah.
care about
Yeah.
honor, integrity, loyalty,
Which
character.
I will say kind of makes more sense now the way Bo-Katan got it because they wrote 2 episodes later that it's gone.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not, it wasn't going to become this big impactful thing that's like, I have the Darksaber, you all rule me now. Or I rule everybody now
Right.
because
it's
I've
the
got
fact
the
that you should
Darksaber and-
follow Bo-Katan
You should
because
follow
she's
me,
a
yeah.
good leader.
Yeah.
Right.
Because she is someone who can inspire, who will stand up for her friends, flies in to save Din and says, I got this, go get your kid. Like, puts herself in
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
That's why you need to follow her, not because she has some symbol.
Yeah.
So I like that message a lot. Do you have
I
thoughts
was
on that at all?
I was before I watched it. I was nervous. I was nervous about the episode, and I don't think I felt that way about any others.
It's just so
I was a little
Yeah.
nervous
Negative.
because,
Negative.
and
No,
I
I'm
was
just kidding.
and I was very very relieved.
Mm.
We had that long discussion about the armor. It has nothing to do with my opinion,
Yeah.
but I felt as we started that it would have been so sad. It would have been so sad if there was a
Yeah.
betrayal in the last. I just felt this is going to be sad.
Mm.
If there's a
Yeah.
betrayal in this moment and it turns bad and it turns negative, I was like nervous that it was going to be a very sad. And we talked
Sad.
about what
Brendan Wayne lied
Brendan
to us
Wayne
all.
said.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
like,
know.
please, I was
That's
just
part
like,
of the reason why I thought a betrayal was coming.
I just thought I was
He
just
lied
feeling
to
like,
us.
oh.
He said you can't. What
So
did he say?
when-
You
It's going to
can't-
hurt too much.
So when Axe
There's literally
Woves,
Hurt
Nothing.
nothing. It was the happiest ending in any Star Wars movie, including the Ewoks dancing on Endor.
it was better than that. Happier.
Nobody died.
So when Axe Woves
Nobody
gets
Nobody
right,
died.
he gets back and he's
Yeah.
gonna die. For
Yeah.
I thought that's awesome. And then Lady Kreese.
I
You
know
know,
that
you-
was